right, thank you so much, Jeremy. I'm going to call the meeting to order and establish a quorum. I'm going to call the roll as we do. Dan DeLoss? Dan's not here?
I see him.
Here. I was muted. I apologize. I am here.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, I'm so glad you're here, Dan. Nice to see you. Thank you. Barbara Lovenheim here. Benny Martinez? He's not here, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Carla Palumbo?
Here.
Dale Rakoff?
Here.
Grace Tilliast?
Here.
And Ellen Williams?
Here.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the October meeting of the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College. The meeting has been called to order and a quorum has been established. We will now move to adopt the consent agenda. Unless objections are raised, the following items are proposed to be adopted and approved by consent. Some of these items address issues which have been discussed by the board in the past and or are routine operational matters which do not involve new policy decisions. Other consent items are derived from provisions in existing prior approved labor contracts, capital construction programs, or other trustee initiatives. The consent agenda is presented for adoption as a single agenda item. Specific items may be removed by request of any board member for discussion as a part of the regular agenda. The remaining items should then be adopted as a single agenda. Board approval of the consent agenda is required. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College adopt the consent agenda effective October 5th, 2020. Trustees, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
And a second, please.
Second.
Second.
Okay, good. Lots of seconds. Are any discussion, any questions? Okay, all in favor, and I will have to call the roll again. Dan DeLoss?
Aye.
Barbara Lovenheim? Aye. Benny Martinez? He's not here yet. Carla Palumbo?
Aye.
Dale Rakoff?
Aye.
Grace Tillinghast?
Aye.
Ellen Williams?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that has been approved. Thank you very much. Okay, Trustee Dale Rakoff will now give the Finance and Facilities Committee report. The board will consider these resolutions as a committee of the whole, voting on each in turn. Trustee Rakoff.
Dale, you're on mute.
Thank you. I first wanted to start by expressing the board's appreciation for all the effort that's gone into this, especially the cooperation amongst the different stakeholders and the collaboration. I know it can both be dry and highly personal, and I appreciate the fact that we're not just focused on a financial metric, but we're trying to meet the vision of the future of MCC and do that in a financially sustainable and responsible way. So with that, Ezzy, if you would share with us the financial report through the end of July.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Let's go to the first slide. Thank you. So beginning with enrollment for July, this is a year-to-date performance. We've achieved 9,071 state aidable FTEs, and that represents 96% of our budget. We had a decline both in full-time FTE enrollment by some 9.1% and in the part-time FTEs of 3.6%. Next slide. Revenues totaled $110.1 million through July, representing a 93% achievement of our budget. In the areas of tuition, we had $44 million, state aid, $30 million, sponsor contribution, $17.5 million, and all other totaled $18.6 million for the $110.1 million through July. Next slide. Expenses as of July totaled $104.7 million. That represented a decline year on year of some $2.7 million. If you look at the major categories, salaries, we've achieved $61 million in salaries, and that's a decline of 1.8%. Equipment is spent only 2/10, and that's 68% less than prior year. Contractual expenses of $11.6 million or 18.9% less than prior year. The one line there where we are up is in the area of benefits at $31.9 million, and that's driven primarily by some of the actions that we've taken through the year relative to headcount. Next slide. So these activities represent a fund balance, or is reflected in our fund balance, which declined some $182,000 on a year-to-date basis. I'll show you some preliminary projection for the full year following the next slide. Next slide, please. So the key message then for July is that expenses for wages and benefits are expected to remain favorable year on year. That is operating benefits, not total benefits, which will increase as a result of the actions I referenced earlier. Wages will be down 1.8% year to date. Retiree health care is continuing to decline. It's down 6%. That's because of the change in the programs that's got effective last year. There's been strong college community support in the management of expenses, and that is the reason you will have seen some performance that's better than expected. Next slide. All right, so you're not going to be voting on what I'm showing you now, because what you're voting on is strictly the performance through July. But I do have preliminary data for the full year, and that's what I'm showing you on this slide. So FTEs, we are finishing the year at about 9,842 FTEs, and that's less than last year by some 910 or 8.5%. However, it's only down from the budget some 266 FTEs or 2.6%. We anticipated that decline, and it showed up. Total revenues of $113.6 million will be less than last year by some 6.6 million or 5.5%. Again, not as bad against the budget, which is down some $4.2 million or 3.7%. Total expenses at $116.4 million. That's less than prior year, some $4 million less than prior year, or 3.3%, and it's $5.4 million less than budget, or 4.4%. The excellent news in the area of expenses is that we are down year on year and down against budget, despite the actions that we took to enable the adjustment to our headcount, that is the employee headcount during the months of January and also in the month of August. So this resulted in a use of allocated reserves of some $2.8 million. That's 2.6 less than last, actually $2.6 million lower than prior year, or 16.7%. So we get to fund balance that is preliminary now. What we're looking at is a fund balance at the year end of some $11.8 million. That's 2.8 million less than last year. So we ended the year last year at $14.6 million, and we'll end the year this time at $11.8 million, driven a lot by the fact that we had two actions. One, the board approved, which was the action we took for what we call the visa, the voluntary reduction in force that took place in, frankly, the program ran through January. People didn't begin to leave, frankly, until June. And then it also now includes the VPEP, which is the voluntary reduction in force that we just had in August. So we had those two items totaling some $5 million that were not, most of which was not budgeted, and we still came in at a fund balance of about $11.8 million year end. Next slide, please. So I want to just share with you the achievement against the target that President Douglas have talked about throughout the year, and we call it the 6 steps to closing our budget gap going forward. That is, we needed $12 million to take out that continuing performance against our budget. And the first step is what I referred to earlier, was the visa, which we took out a net of 20 people and a reduction in expenses of $1.6 million. We also put in place, as a result of board approval, a hiring freeze, and that reduced, or it allowed us to not backfill some 47 positions. That totaled $3.2 million in reduction in expenses. We have some what we call non-personnel costs. In 2020, those reductions total $1.2 million, and we are projecting another $1 million in 2021. That's the one number on this chart that we don't have locked down at this point in time, because we're still working on ideas to get to that $1 million. So those two line items total $2.2 million. We had a furlough in the month of July. Some 33 people volunteered for about 3.5 to 4 weeks furlough. That drove about a little less than $100,000 in savings. Then we had what we now refer to as the VPEP. There frankly, part of it was voluntary. The other part was actions taken by the president and the cabinet. The actions enable us to reduce headcount by some 17 people, or $1.9 million. And then the voluntary portion of that was 30 people, 25 faculty and 5 what we call non-faculty, and those two total $3.2 million. Now we did make a decision to add back. Actually, we have approved the hiring of 12 people. Only 5 of those are coming back from the VPEP that we had. The other were openings that we felt that we needed to backfill, and so that took added back 5 people, or $500,000 in expenses. And then we have what I call bluebirds, which is positions that became open, or employees left the college without any encouragement, as they left on their own because they either find better positions or they retired. We had 8 of those, generating $700,000 in savings. So when you add those numbers down, you come to a total of 150 positions eliminated, and $12.4 million achieved. Again, the one line there, the fiscal 21 non-personnel costs, we still have to find that, and we are backfilling at least 5 positions from the VPEP, and I'm not at this time prepared to say that we are finished, because there's still some critical positions that we might want to backfill. But it says that we have achieved the target at this point in time. I would say that by the end of the current year that we're in, fiscal year 2021, that target will be well in place. That's the presentation. I ask that you approve the July year-to-date performance, and then you'll get a chance to look at August again at our next board meeting.
Ezzy, if I could, just a few questions on that prior slide. Could you share with the board savings that are expensed in the current year versus treating it differently of accreting the expenses over time?
The major items for this year, we reduced overtime. We almost eliminated travel expenses. We reduced some expenses in software. Utilities was down almost $1 million. Memberships were down almost $200,000, and we took another $500,000 out of supplies. So those are some of the things that we were able to generate during this year for the reduction that showed that $1.2 million reduction. For next year, we are looking at some of the same things, like for instance, travel will certainly be down. The one area where I'm a little concerned with for next year versus this past year is that I'm not so sure I can generate as much savings in utilities as we did this past year, unless we continue to be remote in most of our teaching. We would then, as a result, still do some savings. Did that answer your question?
It does, thank you. And the other question, Hezi, was with respect to our target is to maintain about 10% of our operating budget in reserves. Where would that put us? And because there's an ebb and flow of expense throughout the course of the year,
Yeah.
what typically is the low point of the year that we would want to measure off of?
Correct. This year, we're going to end the year at some 10%, right at 10% of our target. That is the guidelines, which is from 5 to 15. As you know, I've always strived to keep us at 12%. That could not be achieved this year because despite our action with the reduction in expenses, we also had a significant reduction in revenues, and thus we're down at 10%, which is still within the sort of the official college guidance. But if we next year, it would be my expectation that if everything that we've shown you relative to the actions taken, if those are all become a fixed expense reduction, we will be back above the 12% as a percent of operating cost and fund balance.
Thank you. And if I could, just one final question, Hezi. We hear about these different programs like the CARES Act that's provided funds. Just a real basic over-under between support that we've received through the CARES Act or any other sources versus is that support exceeded or equaled the drop in support that we've gotten from, let's say, the state?
So there are two tranches of CARES Act dollars that we should talk about. We got $4.6 million for support to our students, and that is the non-tuition. Those expenses could not be used. I mean, those dollars could not be used for tuition, but they could be used for the other living expenses and costs for our students. Of the 4.6 million, we've spent about 3.6 million of those dollars directly on our students. We last week we got approval from SUNY because initially they told us we could not use these funds for new students coming into the college this semester. We appealed that decision, so last week they approved the remaining balance of about $1 million of CARES money for students. We can use those for both returning as well as new students, and that will be very helpful because of the fact that we are looking at a 20% reduction in TAP, which is Tuition Assistance Program, from the state. So we're trying to figure out a way to offset that, and it comes about $2 million, the TAP reduction. So that's one tranche of the CARES funds. The other tranche is another $4.6 million for the college that is to be used in our operations. We've incurred $1.6 million reduction in state aid in the month of June, this past month, and we are now anticipating another $4.6 million roughly in reduction in state aid in the year fiscal year 21. We will use the CARES dollars for operation to basically try to offset that reduction in state aid. That is the reduction we will get in state aid to help us balance out our spending and our budget for the fiscal year 21.
If I'm keeping score, then the net to MCC is a net reduction of about 2.6 million. The 1 million deficit from the drop in the TAP support, and then the 1.6 million drop in state.
Oh, well, we won't see the TAP reduction until the year that we're in. The 1.6 million that we got for the state aid, we incurred that in the fiscal year we are just closing, fiscal year 20. Now, going forward, however, maybe this is what you're poking at. Going forward, we're gonna experience another hit of some 20% from the state. That could reach roughly $4.6 million.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you clarifying it, because I know there's 3 different calendars going on, and the CARES has its own calendar, which makes it difficult. Any other questions from the board for Hezi? All right, with that, we'll move to the first resolution. Resolve that the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College accepts the interim financial report as of July 31st, 2020, found in attachment 1. Trustees may have a motion to approve the financial report as detailed in attachment 1.
So moved.
Yep.
Carla.
Carla, and second?
Dan, second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Just well done. You know, the result of difficult decisions, but well done by everybody.
With that, I'll move to a vote. All in favor by roll call. Trustee Bartolotta,
Yes.
Trustee DeLoss,
Yes, aye.
Trustee Lovenheim,
Aye.
Trustee Martinez,
Aye.
Trustee Palumbo,
Aye.
Trustee Rakoff, aye. Trustee Tillingast,
Aye.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
All in favor, no dissent. The resolution is accepted. And we'll move on to the second resolution. Resolve that the Board of Trustees of the Monroe Community College authorizes the purchase of items over $20,000 as listed for the month of July 2020, found in attachment 2. Trustees may have a motion to approve the purchases over $20,000 as detailed in attachment 2.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Move to a roll call. All in favor, trustee Bartolotta,
Yes.
trustee DeLoss,
Aye.
trustee Lobenheim,
Aye.
trustee Martinez,
Aye.
trustee Palumbo,
Aye.
trustee Graycroft, aye. Trustee Tillingast,
Aye.
trustee Williams.
Aye.
The second resolution is carried. And then finally, with the, if you please refer to the informational items that are both in attachments 3, 4, and 5. Hezi, would you like to provide any additional information to the board regarding these items?
Yes, I want to just bring you up to date on some of the capital improvement projects. Someone asked me the other day, why did I still have the Building 7 Science Labs renovation on here since the status is complete? What happened was we found, at the end of the project, we found that there was a wastewater problem in the building. And because of the effectiveness of the project itself in terms of the spending, we had some cash left over. And it turns out we had enough cash to fix the problem relative to the wastewater coming out of the labs.
Yeah.
We got the county's approval to spend the additional dollars to fix that. So that's another $155,000 of work that has to be done, and we are able to do it using capital dollars versus the expenses. So but by the time we get maybe to the next couple of board meetings, that item will disappear. I want to just mention the item on the Finger Lakes Workforce Development Center. It's not going to create any loss in time, but the asbestos abatement work turned out to be a lot more expensive than we had budgeted for, or had expected. And it's because they found some asbestos in the system or in the building that we were not aware of. And we're having a bit of a debate with the company that's doing the work about the cost of that. But I authorized the county last week to go forward, and we will have a debate at the end of the work. We want the work done, and so the work is being done. We'll have to negotiate the final cost when it's all done, but we want to stay on schedule. And so,
Hezi, what's the financial impact on that? What's the got a dollar amount?
yeah, the vendor wants 200,000, and we think it should be about 85,000.
So are we going to bid out the remediation?
Well, we already did.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, this company won the bid, and they've been doing the work, and we're frankly satisfied with the work that they're doing. But they found some asbestos that we did not anticipate. They are suggesting that it will cost another 200,000 to remediate that portion. We have an estimate from another company that says it should be more like 85,000. So that's the difference that we are debating.
I never met a remediation company that didn't find more asbestos. Yeah.
Well, we're living it right now.
Yeah. That's good that you're having another company look at that. That's good. Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's it. Those are the two items I wanted to bring to your attention.
Thank you, Hezi. Any other questions from the board? Hezi, thank you very much for your team and the time and the commitment. Obviously, we have to continue to be judicious in spending. Look forward to hearing in the next meeting the sources that you've identified for the additional required savings, and I appreciate the financial stewardship.
Thank you.
That concludes the Finance and Facilities Committee report. Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Hezi. Again, thank you very much, Trustee Rakoff. We appreciate all the work that you have done with the finances and also the very clear explanations you've given to all of us so that we understand exactly where we are.
Thank you.
Trustee Ellen Williams will now give the Personnel and Program Committee report. The board will consider these resolutions as a committee of the whole, voting on each in turn.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College accepts an amendment to intersession 2021 to amend the dates for last day student may drop courses to January 7th, 2021, and last day for a student to withdraw from an individual course with a grade of W to January 16th, 2021, and spring 2021 to amend the last day for a student to withdraw from an individual course with a grade of W to May 1st, 2021, and to align spring recess with Monroe County Public School calendars, March 28th to April 4th, 2021. Before I ask for a motion, I'd like to have Provost Wade sort of give her comments or her perspective of where we or what's going on.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. So the first part of this resolution is really just making sure that the various dates embedded within the academic calendar are in compliance with our outside requirements in terms of refunds and other financial aid regulations. But I did want to mention that traditionally we've put forward an academic calendar, and we've made our best guess about what the Monroe County Public School calendar breaks were going to be. After they release their breaks, then we would adjust our calendar to appropriately so those were aligned to help our student parents with childcare, but also our employees who are also trying to manage their calendars with the other public school calendars. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is that there is discussion among the SUNY schools right now about the wisdom of having spring breaks in the coming semester. Some of the four-year schools have elected to eliminate spring breaks because they're substantially residential and they're worried about students leaving and then coming back. Up until, I would say, even a few days ago, there were no community colleges really stepping forward to do this. We're now hearing about some that are choosing to make that alteration in their spring schedule. So I wanted to let the trustees know that this is a continuing conversation and that both President Douglas and I are monitoring it. And we'll come back to you if there's a need to make a change. But at this point, we're putting forward a calendar that still has the traditional 2 week-long breaks for the spring.
Andrea, did you decide to do this, to keep the break because we have so many students who have children in the school system? Was that the reasoning behind it?
This is really the schedule that's been in place as long as I've been here, and I don't actually know how many years before. I heard they went to 2 weeks of break in the spring when we had the energy crisis. So I think that it goes back quite a long time. And it does, in regular times, it really does help student parents and employees who are also parenting to have those breaks aligned. And the other thing is that we do certainly have residential students, but our students come and go every day. And we have made such an effort to reduce the number of students on campus. And if the trustees didn't know, we have about 5% of our typical numbers in the fall of students on campus. And for spring, I don't think we're going to expand that by much at all. So we're being very conservative. And for that reason, we're going to wait and watch what other schools are doing and stick with our traditional calendar until external forces would cause us to bring that back up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And with that, trustees may I have a motion to approve the amended academic calendar as detailed in attachment 6.
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion?
Ellen, if I could pose two questions to Provost Wade. One is there a practical issue with the dates falling on a Saturday?
I'm not sure what your question, as to when the breaks start.
No, for a student to withdraw from class, if it can be processed on a non-business day.
I believe they can withdraw, they can withdraw online. And is VP McKinsey Mabry on the call?
Yep, I'm right here, Provost Wade. Thank you. So yes, students can process all of their withdrawals right online, so it becomes effective the day they submit it.
Okay. And then the other question is, I'm at a loss to find within any of the literature for the college if there's a uniform standard for professors to provide feedback on graded assignments. So if a student is trying to weigh whether or not they're going to drop a class or drop it for a W versus a unpleasant grade, is there a uniform standard for which students can expect feedback, especially now since they're remote, they rely on that feedback a lot more?
So I'll say that we don't have a specific written requirement for faculty to submit feedback. I think we have an expectation, and it's one of the things in terms of evaluating faculty effectiveness. It's one of the things that we would consider as excellence, is providing timely feedback, but we do not have a hard and fast requirement. And I think part of that, when I've been at other institutions where we've talked about, is that the expectation about the timeliness for that feedback is really dependent in the nature of the assignment. You know, a short quiz, you might be able to turn around quickly, but a major paper might take quite some time to get through an entire class. So having a uniform requirement for all kinds of assessments becomes problematic.
Thank you.
Okay, any further comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Trustee Bartolotta?
Yes.
Trustee DeLoss?
Aye.
Chair Lobenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Martinez?
Aye.
Trustee Palumbo?
Aye.
Trustee Rakoff?
Aye.
Trustee Tillinghast?
Aye.
And Trustee Williams, aye. Thank you. The motion is approved. Any further questions? This concludes the Personnel and Programs Committee report.
Thank you so much, Trustee Williams. I really appreciate that a lot. Trustees, unless there is further business to discuss, this concludes the business portion of the meeting. We will now go into the informational portion of the Board of Trustees meeting. I would now like to ask Kristen Lowe to present on the sexual harassment response and prevention training.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you saw and received an email from Board Secretary Linda Hall earlier in the month, and it contained a link to access training materials. Those training materials are actually the same materials that all of our employees and our student workers will be taking. It is a video that is produced by SUNY, actually SUNY Council Office, to help institutions comply with the annual New York State requirement to complete sexual harassment response and prevention training. So the video, there were two, one in English, one in Spanish. They are ADA accessible with closed captioning. And really the goal of this training, it's less than 15 minutes. It's certainly to set a baseline so that people are aware of what the policies are specific to SUNY and MCC, so that they have a sense that there are individuals that they can contact if they feel that they have a question or that they need to file a report. Links are embedded in the training so that they can, go back and pull that information. But again, I say, it's a compliance requirement. It certainly sets a baseline. I think through programming that's offered throughout the year across our campuses, both for students and for employees, that's really where I think we shift culture and focus when we tie that training and tie programming to our values. I think it really resonates, with individuals. This particular requirement is an annual requirement. It's something that all employees within New York State have to complete. And again, SUNY provided us a tool this year so that individuals could watch a video and then have the opportunity to ask questions or seek clarification or voice any concerns that they have with myself, either through an in-person, through a Zoom meeting or through email or phone contact. That interactive portion can be satisfied in multiple ways. And so by appearing this evening, this is your opportunity. If you have questions or if you have comments, I can certainly weigh in, but if not, your completion of that training will be tracked based upon the minutes of this evening's meeting and your attendance. And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me offline, please don't hesitate to reach out. But again, I am here to receive any questions or feedback that you might have.
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I was surprised to see the number of people, the few people that have actually watched the videos, either in English or in Spanish. I decided that I will watch the one in Spanish. Big mistake. The person that was talking did a fairly good job. However, when she's talking about Title IX, what you see on the screen is the Roman number 11, which means that the person that did the typing doesn't know Roman numerals anyway. And then the other thing that I noticed is that if you are in languages or you know about languages, you know that the syntax of the English language is not the same as in Spanish. So I watched it and I thought, I'm surprised that from the office, in Albany, they sent something that could be better. So that's my comment.
Well, I appreciate that comment and I can certainly share that with them.
And I have one question not related to the specifics of the training, but there are so many different aspects of mandatory training on a myriad of topics.
Yep.
And there are folks that have more than one job or more than one role.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to take training here at RTS, and it was also required of MCC, do I have to take the training at both places? And before you answer, I'll tell you, I've asked somebody else the question, and I was hoping for a different answer than the one I got.
Well, for here at MCC, we too have people who, through board membership or through other employment, are able to produce a certificate that says when they completed it, that it meets the New York State requirements, the date that it's signed off, and then upon request that we'd be able to access the materials to ensure that they were, in compliance with the state mandate. And we too, in turn, do produce a certificate if individuals want to, be able to demonstrate that they completed this training at MCC and then can therefore be marked as complete at another employer, we're happy to do that. We run into some issues with the printing of the certificate through Blackboard. I will tell you, we've tried to make that cleaner and simpler, but the most feedback seems to be, I can't get my certificate, or where is it, or do I need to produce it? We have to be able to track completion through an auditable process, should the state decide to inquire about our completion rates. And so that's why we use the Blackboard learning management system, because we're able to track completion through the grade center. But we have run into some issues with the ability to print a certificate. Our employees are not required to print a certificate to prove completion to us. Again, I'm able to see that through Blackboard. But employees who wish to receive a certificate, an official certificate that they can provide to another employer, we produce those in human resources. And so people can email me at klowe5@monroecc.edu, and I'd be happy to issue the certificate as long as they've completed it.
Great answer. Thank you.
Kristen,
Christine, is the video the entire training?
The video is the entire training.
Oh, that's a lot shorter than my agency one.
I know.
Except for I get daily credit. So there you go, Dan. You could come
There
to
you go.
mine. I could give you credit. So do people have to sign that they've watched the video? How does that work?
So we worked with our instructional technology team to embed questions within the training. So you can't just have it be running in the background and that marks you as completed. There's questions at 2 different points in the training. And then we're able to, like I said, see sort of on the back end in the grade center and Blackboard, the date and time that they logged in and the score that they received on those 2 questions. So some people, I can see that they logged in and maybe they didn't answer the question. So maybe they did just kind of sort of run it and walk away and not realize there were questions embedded in there, so that it will show up that they didn't respond to the required questions.
So I watched it on YouTube, but is that the same thing?
No, we sent you the link directly. We sent you the YouTube links directly. That's just for the board. Our employees have to log in through my MCC, and then it's linked that way.
Got it. Okay.
Yes. Anyone who would like can go see the YouTube links, access the YouTube links that you did, but our employees need to access it via my MCC in order to be tracked.
So when we watch it via YouTube, does that count or no?
That counts for this. That counts for this subset, because again, if you I asked you to do it in advance. Your presence today, and unless anyone says they didn't do it, and then we can talk afterwards, but your presence at the meeting today with the request to complete it beforehand, and then the opportunity to ask questions of me, satisfies the content requirement and the interactive requirement.
Okay. All right. And so one final, and so that means, are we eligible for the certificate?
You are.
Completed? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, I mean, to Trustee Palumbo's point, it is brief. It is less than 15 minutes. It's a baseline understanding. We have a policy, we know who to contact. And then from there, I think we really build upon, programming and trainings that are lengthier and go more in depth throughout the year to shift culture and to focus, on the MCC values, that type of treatment of one another is simply not tolerated.
Any other questions? Anything else, Kristen, that you wanted to add?
I have nothing else to add. Thank you for your time this evening. And what I can do is go ahead and produce those certificates and share them with Linda Hall, so that if anyone would like that, you have proof that you completed the training through MCC, if that would be useful to you and any other boards or employer.
Good. Thank you very much, Kristen. We appreciate your help with all this.
Thank you.
I would now like to ask Interim President Douglas to give her report.
Thank you, Chair Lovenheim, and good evening, trustees and colleagues. So my president's report, this meeting will be focusing on the strategic plan. You'll recollect over the course of the last 7 months, we had discussed a way to report on the strategic plan that kept you informed, but also was more targeted. And so what we've done is look at each of the 5 major directions of the strategic plan. You'll see each has a section here in this attachment. And a member of the cabinet was responsible for the leadership of each one. And in the course of that leadership, they spoke with members of the college community, and each group identified 2 to 3, potentially 4 metrics that they will be targeting this year, prioritizing this year, and which we will report to you, the trustees, at the beginning of the academic year now, the first meeting here in October, and then in the middle of the year, and then again at the end of the year. So roughly October, February, June, so that you get a sense of how we are proceeding. Now, these limited number of metrics that we'll share and point out tonight, they certainly are not all the ones that we're keeping track of. Well over 100 that we continue to keep track of. But in terms of giving you a snapshot, a dashboard look at the strategic plan and how we're doing, we've identified and selected and prioritized a fewer number of metrics. And I've invited our Director of Institutional Research, William Dixon, to be part of our presentation tonight on the strategic plan, because he knows the numbers, he knows where they come from, and can best present and then address questions. So William, could I ask you to walk the trustees through this new dashboard looking at the strategic plan?
Yeah, so for this new dashboard, if you recall the complete strategic plan dashboard, that website is still active on campus. So that has been updated on the website. So if you want to go see every metric we're measuring, it's there. The ones that are measured here, so for example, under Learning First, the first 3 of these are the most important. They're the guided pathways key performance indicators on campus. It's something we're being measured internally, but also nationally on. So I think that's one of the reasons we see these. So we're looking at the first 3. In the first year that a student comes to us, what percentage of that student population completes math and English at the college level in their first year at the college? The second one's college English in their first year and college math in their first year. And the course completion rates, this is being updated. That has been updated since this has been created. So it's running about 65.5 percentage points. I would like to call your attention to the completed English in year 1. So this is for 18-19. In 19-20, we're going to see that go yellow because we've made significant improvements in that rate this past year. So that's one thing to keep an eye on going into the future. Under student success, this is again looking at our first time in college students. What percentage of that student body is here, come to us in the fall, and they're still here in the next fall? The first time full-time retention rate, that 57%, is in the red. That is the first time in 5 years it hasn't been 61%. It's rare that number changes, but it changed for this 1 year. More than likely, it's going to go back up to what it was next year. So for fall 19, we'll take census this coming up week. So we'll have an update for this one also. First time part-time retention, these are the first time students who came to us under 12 credit hours. We're in the green. So this is the highest retention rate for that population we've had, at least for the last 5 years. So we're making strides into that population. And this increased fall to fall persistence rate, that is not just for first time full-time students, that is for our entire student body. So we kept 52.2% of our student body from fall 18 to fall 19. Again, as we improve these other metrics, we'll see that climb as well. Under Direction 3, Career Pathways Economic Development, this is under the EDWIST area. This is what we report to SUNY. So under the SUNY reporting for 18-19, they're going to ask us how many enrollments did we have in the career training programs. There's 2,194. That's the highest number we've ever reported to SUNY for career training. So that's kind of the spike. We've seen that grow over the years. The enrollment and certificate programs. This is, as of fall 2018, what percentage of our students were in a certificate program? That's 4 percentage points. Again, that's the highest it's been historically. And the count of maintained contracts, we're working with Edowis right now to update this number. It's going to be in the green. It has been last year. I don't think that's decreased this year. But that exact number is not available right now. It will be next week. Under organizational culture, the first one is the full-time employee retention rate. So from fall 18 to fall 19, we retained 92.8% of our full-time employees. We will probably see that number go down this coming up year, just because we've had a reduction in workforce from fall 19 going into fall 20. We're still going to be in the yellow. We might even still be in the green, but I expect that to go down a little bit this coming up year on the next update. The 2 questions below that come off of the Gallup 12, the Gallup poll survey. And that is kind of focused on employee effectiveness, employee sentiment at the college. These are the 2 questions that were focused on diversity, inclusion. And the first one, my supervisor, someone at work seems to care about me as a person. That's one that was selected. And this year I had the opportunity to work and learn and to grow at the college. Again, both of those are in the yellow. We did the Gallup poll in 2017, 2018. The numbers are almost exactly the same as they were then. So we haven't made significant increases, but we also haven't decreased on these measures. So it's something we're working towards in the future. And number 5, institutional effectiveness, is going to be in Hetsy's area. The student to faculty ratio. This is the student to faculty ratio we're measured at the federal level on. So if you read a newspaper article, this is probably what they're going to be reporting. It's from the IPEDS area. So it's 21. We're actually above the target, what we were hoping for 18, 19. We'll probably see that increases coming up here just because we're going to have less faculty coming up. Student to other faculty ratio, this is what we report to SUNY. So this is all employees other than teaching faculty. So how many employees and how many student FTE, that's how this is going to be generated. Percent of the fund balance to actual balance. For 18-19, we were at 12%. I believe if I heard Hezi say correctly, we were, what, 10% in 19-20? So when we update, that would be shown on the next update. And this last one, the new operating costs per FTE student, we're in the red in that one. So our target is to spend roughly $7,500 in operating costs per FTE student. That has been increasing over the years. So there's different ways of handling this one, but we're going to see that cost increase. It has for the last 5 years, like slowly increase. This coming up year, it'll be hard to say what it's going to look like after reductions on workforce. And the last one, this ratio of revenue per FTE student and cost per FTE student, this is going to be a metric that's updated on the quarterly report. So I could put it here, but it's not really a strategic plan measure, but it's something that's been asked for. So I think on the financial quarterly report, it would be reported there.
Thank you, William. Questions on any specific measures or in general, what we're presenting and why?
I should know this and I apologize, William, but threshold versus target.
Oh, that's a very good question. And almost everybody asks that question because when you see that, it's not self-explanatory. So the threshold, let me go back to how these are calculated first. When we first set the targets, we took the 5 years of indicating the measures leading up to that first year. So 2012 through 2016, strategic plan started in 2017. So we took the average score for the 5 years leading up to it. The target would be if we made significant improvement in that area, what would that number have to be statistically significant? So you would have to reach this target to say you've made significant improvements. The threshold Anything below that means you made significant negative improvements or something significantly different changed for the negative.
Thanks.
President Douglas, is there a way, I think where this is updated on the college website, our board pack credentials don't give us access to that.
Oh, I'm sure we can work to address that. So we can definitely make sure that you have ongoing access. All trustees have ongoing access to these metrics and all of the metrics. William, is there a particular way that you recommend we do that?
So under our dashboards, there was a limited number of licenses. That's probably why you didn't have access. We're moving the strategic plan over the Tableau, which is unlimited. Okay. So when you have access to the system, you will always have, as long as you have an MCC username and password, you will have access to the system.
Okay, thank you.
So William, what's our timetable on when we're shifting to Tableau?
So our dashboards are still open, but it's probably going to go offline this month because we canceled the contract. So within the next couple of weeks, you will see this updated on our website, and a link will also be on the strategic plan on the assessment website on campus. So it'll be linked in 2 different places.
Okay, I just want to mention that our board does not have MCC usernames and passwords.
Okay, so that presents us another opportunity to figure out how to give trustees access. And I will work with our wizards in IT, and we will come up with a solution, Trustee Rykoff, because you have absolutely every right to look at all of these at any time.
Thank you.
Including the financials.
There you go. All right, I will get the solution to that, and we will send that information out to all of you. Thank you. And thank you, William. And more importantly, thank you all members of the college community that have done so much work to see us making advances in these important metrics. So these things don't move quickly or easily. I particularly want to point out some of the advances that are possible because of the guided pathways work that academic services has been doing the leadership of. That when you look at that full-time, part-time retention rate that has moved into the green for the first time ever, I would say that's directly related to the efforts related to guided pathways. But look at Edouis and look at all that they've done there. So I want to applaud all members of our college community and the leadership within cabinet that is moving the metrics on this. And we will get access for the trustees for the full strategic plan and continue to present this single slide dashboard 3 times throughout this academic year. And that concludes the president's report. Chair Lovenheim.
Thank you so much, President Douglas. I also want to say how much we appreciate your putting all of this information in this structure so we can easily understand it, and we will be able to access it. It makes a big difference to the way in which we then can go forward and make decisions, because we really have this at our fingertips. So we appreciate that very much, you and your team. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would now like to ask Christy Fogel to provide a SUNY update.
Good afternoon, trustees. I'm Christy Fogel. I am the Faculty Council of Community College president. I'm also a SUNY trustee, as well as a math professor at MCC. So my report, it's very similar to the report that I gave last Thursday and Friday, was our fall plenary, virtual plenary. And it's very similar. I've added some things and I've taken a few things out, and I do have an update when we get towards the end. Next slide, please. I'll go through these pretty quickly. These are some of the SUNY initiatives. As you know, we have the SUNY Online, and this started with Open SUNY. It was called Open SUNY, and people were a little confused the difference between Open SUNY and SUNY Online. So anything that is in Open SUNY, which Monroe had a few programs, will morph into SUNY Online. The current SUNY Online Plus programs, which Monroe has, will be called SUNY Online Signature Programs. That'll be more of an internal designation, but students will be able to see that we're considered signature programs. SUNY Online is expected to operate at a loss until the year 2022 and 2023 academic years. And you'll see it's quite small in there, but in the fall of 19, we had 120 new students. In the spring of 2020, 363, that's new students, so that doesn't count any returning students. And in the fall of 2020, we have approximately 1,100 new students. So it is slowly building up the number of students. There's also been a push for an accelerated semester. Many students across the state and country are looking for semesters that are 8 to 12 weeks long rather than the traditional 15. So that's something that the SUNY Online committees have been working on as well. Next slide, please. We have a Provost Online Advisory Committee, and this committee was formed with 33 members total, which includes faculty, which includes presidents, provosts, and so on. And we split into some subgroups. I have them listed there. The two that I am on are cross-registration, where we're looking at how a student can be in a program, for example, a Monroe program, but if we don't have all of the courses for the program, the student could register at another college and it would be considered full-time status along with those other along with the other courses. I'm also in the program identification, where we are just beginning to look at other programs around the system that would like to belong to the SUNY Online within the platform. And there's the charge of the committee. I won't go through that. Next slide, please. You probably remember Prodigy from last year. It's the Promoting Recruitment Opportunity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Growth. And this initiative by System was to double the number of underrepresented minorities and women in STEM faculty within the next decade. It's kind of quieted down recently. Haven't heard a lot, but if you've heard of the Black Faculty and Staff Collective, this was a group that was formed it was faculty and staff from Dutchess Community College, and it's actually now a national group. And they had some issues with the Prodigy program. So the Prodigy program is stepping back a little and taking a look at what the Black Faculty and Staff Collective had issues with. And we're trying to get them more involved in different areas, such as the general education, which I'll talk about in a minute. But Terry Miller from System Administration, she's the System Chief Diversity Officer. She was in charge of leading this initiative, and she is now officer in charge at Old Westbury. So we're not completely sure what's going to happen with this initiative, if it'll morph into something else, or if she will continue working on this. But she is officer in charge right now. She's two positions. She's the officer in charge as well as the SUNY CDO. Next slide, please. And this is the general education. The SUNY general education, as you may remember from last time I spoke to you, has not changed very much since, well, actually I was in college. And it always seems to get placed on the back burner. So we've been working as a group to try to reinvent, I'll say, SUNY general education. We have the Provost Gen Ed Advisory Committee, and that was formed to make final recommendations to the provost. It's a cross-functional committee with several people from around System. The phase one of this new committee, what we did was we created a bulleted list of knowledge and skills areas for general education. And what we did then was we all turned it in, and we were trying to figure out, what does the 21st century student need? What general education would work well for those students? And as I mentioned before, what happened when the Black Faculty and Staff Collective had a list of items that they were unhappy with Prodigy and also general education. So I believe this committee is also going to step back a little and involve more faculty from this collective group. and look at potentially having some infused competency for some type of ethics and diversity component. And once we had our last meeting in February, and then COVID hit, so we did not meet again. The committee chairs are Barbara Morris from Oneonta and Kate Schiffen, who's the provost at Genesee, and we will be meeting again at the end of the month. Next slide, please. Transfer pathway review. Okay, this is a lot of times people confuse transfer pathways with guided pathways. What a transfer pathway is a set of courses a student needs to take, for example, at our community college, that will transfer to our four-year state-operated campus. And this was done a few years ago, and there were issues with it, and it's been modified. And last spring, what we did was we sent out a survey to campuses. What are the problem areas? Where do we need to address our work? And we got quite a few areas back. For example, physics, engineering, they tend to be where the transfers aren't working well. So this semester, actually it was supposed to be in the spring, there were committees formed where there would be proposed revisions to these transfer pathways. And again, because of everything that happened, we weren't able to pass those out to campuses to share out for comment. So that's going to be delayed until this fall. So hopefully we'll get that. And it's a step that I can tell you, Chair Tisch from the SUNY Board of Trustees is very, very concerned about transfer, especially between our community colleges and the state-operated campuses. So you can be sure that something like this will be very helpful to our students. Next slide, please. We also have a SUNY Mental Health and Wellness Task Force and another cross-functional group. And you see that we had several subcommittees, and we've met virtually and in person, but nothing has really happened since then. But this is one of the additions I wanted to make. Just last evening, and I know it was in the Tribune this morning, just last night I got an email from the chancellor. There's a partnership between upstate and downstate medical to offer telemental health counseling to students around SUNY at no charge. So that's a wonderful advantage for our students. We all know that this is a time of crisis, and everyone needs a little help every now and then. So that was a big announcement that came out last night. And this committee, I would expect to continue, but continue probably in a little bit different way now. Next slide, please. And community college issues. This comes out of the community college office at System. SUNY noticed a 7% increase, and this is across all community colleges, in graduation rates since 2010. And they're saying that it's due to initiatives such as co-requisites and guided pathways. There has been a decrease in remediation. And one of the things we asked as a faculty is to be careful of how that's said. It's not the need for remediation, it's a decrease in the number of remediation courses, because what happened here in most of these situations is they were combined co-requisite courses where it would be a remedial course along with a college bearing course. So with that, there were 9,000 students less that took remediation courses and 7,000 less math students. There's what's called the Family Empowerment Act. I'm not sure, Family Empowerment Program. I'm not sure, I would guess MCC is probably involved in this. 139 single parents at 9 different community colleges. They have on-campus childcare, and the students have intensive advising. The Pathway Scholars Award, it hasn't begun yet, but it will support 2,000 high-performing students to complete associates in 2 years and a bachelor's in 4 years. And you probably saw the Stay Near Go Far campaign. That ended up becoming more of a retention tool than a recruitment tool. From what I was told, that when students saw their campus as Stay Near Go Far, they're very proud of that. And in many cases, the students that were surveyed afterwards said, yeah, that I was very proud of my college. And one of the reasons why I wanted to continue and not move on to a different college. That from what I understand, that campaign is planning to continue as well. Next slide, please. And in SUNY news, as you probably know, that SUNY introduced a COVID-19 dashboard, which lists all campuses and the number of cases that were reported. And recently, UUP and PEF and CSEA had an agreement, and this is the state-operated campuses, for free mandatory COVID-19 testing. You as trustees you have the ability to make that mandatory on each individual campus, but SUNY cannot make that mandatory for us. And the uniform sanctions across the campuses for students who violate these COVID-19, any of the policies. This was something that the SUNY board, we had no involvement in the creation or approval of this. We were told that our campus presidents were, and I had faculty that were concerned about it. They were concerned, they felt like we were losing our autonomy and that we all have student codes of conduct. And so I went to SUNY legal counsel and asked about this. And I was told that since the governor gave SUNY the right to approve campus reopening plans, that sanctions were a part of this. And they were also, the last two quotes, I was also told by SUNY legal counsel that it doesn't modify our codes of conduct, it just gives us a range of sanctions. So I wanted to make sure that our faculty as well as you were able to see that it doesn't prohibit our current or doesn't change our current student code of conduct. Next slide, please. And continuing, SUNY Oneonta, you may or may not know, they went all virtual for 2 weeks. They went all virtual after they had a large number of COVID cases. And there was a big concern at system administration because many of the students went home. The concern was that the students were going to go home and potentially take COVID with them and infect their communities. So once things started up ramping or heading up the ramp with SUNY Oswego, they went to a 2-week virtual only hiatus, and cases are leveling off and back down. So they are back to their prior status right now. Students were not allowed to leave campus. They were not allowed, they were asked to stay in their dorms, and they had food brought to them. And this really seemed to help the transmission of COVID. Few other state-operated campuses are on the cusp to go virtual for this 2-week hiatus. And as of right now, I haven't heard of any community colleges, but there are a few that I heard are concerned with their numbers that have been increasing. And then the last bullet down here is what Provost Wade mentioned with state-operated campuses. Many of them have decided to forego spring break. Some of the community colleges are also considering this as well. Next slide, please. In the board news, as you know, Chancellor Johnson left to go to Ohio State, and the SUNY board appointed Dr. Malatras, who is was the president of Empire State College. There was no national search, and you may or may not know that the Faculty Council of Community Colleges, the University Faculty Senate, and the Student Assembly endorsed a vote of no confidence on the SUNY board, any of the politically appointed members, because we did forego this national search, which took out any type of shared governance. It eliminated that, and it was a quick move to appoint a chancellor. The chancellor, in his first board meeting with us, he stated that his vision for community colleges is to create more workforce development centers around the state, similar to what's in Buffalo and Syracuse. I have pointed out to him a few times that community colleges, I don't know what Monroe's number is, but each of our colleges have at least 50% of our students who are transfer students. So I want to make sure that we get the transfer initiative in there. And the chancellor has been visiting colleges and including community colleges. It started out when there was an uptick in COVID cases, and now he's visiting colleges who have done very well with tracking COVID. I know he is headed to Portland this afternoon. I'm not sure what the outcome of that is going to be, but I know they were one of the colleges that was sort of on the cusp, so we'll see what happens there. But he does visit our community colleges and has been very impressed with how our community colleges have been handling and how they've been keeping track of students as well as employees that test positive. Next slide, please.
Christy, I just want to make one point about Malatras. He, on his first day as chancellor, we were having a search committee meeting and he came to that meeting.
Yes.
So, so he's sort of been to Monroe, but I'm sure he'll come in a more extended visit.
Yeah, he's been visiting face-to-face on campuses, and which I think is wonderful. He's been talking to people around campus, faculty, staff, students, and really praising campuses who are doing well. And like I said, community colleges, we've done very well, and we've been able to not only tracking and tracing, but I think a lot of it has to do with the decreased number of face-to-face courses that we've had. Any questions?
I just have a comment and a question. The push for an 8-week semester, obviously 8 weeks is 2 months, so it's not a semester. Will the students be required to take an X number of courses? Because in 2 months, I mean, what can you do in 8 weeks?
Yeah, it would be very similar. My guess is it would be very similar to our summer sessions, which are 5-week summer sessions.
Okay.
I would guess there are financial aid implications to all of that, but students would really like to have shorter sessions online. So we're talking about the SUNY online. And it could potentially be that they would like to finish quicker. Maybe it aligns with other colleges. I'm not sure what their motivation is, but that's my guess.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a question about the online as well?
Sure.
Are you, the numbers seem to be increasing. Are you finding that the online courses appeal to one type of student over another, full-time, part-time, working? I'm just curious about that. Or are all kids entering it? Students entering?
Right now, it's pretty much everybody because of
good.
the state of what's going on.
Yeah.
But in general, we did at Monroe a few years ago, actually several years ago, we looked at the highest performers of students online, and it was women in their 30s for the best performers, meaning the highest pass rate. And my guess is because they probably were mothers putting their children on the bus and able to take courses. That's still a big appeal, I believe, to most students, is the fact that they can work or be at home with their children. And so it does tend to be the older, I'll say more mature student that prefers online courses.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Christy. We appreciate all the work you're doing. It's a lot going back and forth. Well, you were going back and forth to Albany. Now it's done on Zoom, but it's still a lot of work, a lot of committee work, and we appreciate your help and involvement. Thank you.
Thank you.
I now ask the cabinet members to give their reports. And we will start with Kelvin Gant.
Well, hello, board. This will be the first time I've had an opportunity to present information to you all, so I appreciate that opportunity. You should have received the one-pager that I sent to you, as well as a list, a diversity calendar of events that we have scheduled for the fall semester. The thing that I want to point out is that this past Friday, we had our first ever virtual diversity conference. It was a learning experience, but I think it turned out well. We had over 100 participants in that conference. And for the first time, I believe, for our institution, one of our two keynote speakers was a person who was deaf. So again, for us, learning how to make sure we were navigating that experience and had interpreters set to be able to ensure that that was a positive experience for that individual, as well as members from the RIT campus that were in attendance for the conference, was very important for us. So hopefully at the end of the day, the feedback that I've received thus far about the event has been very positive. And although we were successful in doing a virtual tour or a virtual conference, I would love to have us back face to face, especially the topic was mental health and wellness in diverse communities. And again, that topic is one that we could have done a little bit more exploring and broke out into groups to really dive in a little bit further, which is a little bit more difficult when you're doing it in a virtual environment. But other than that, the other thing that I will highlight is the fact that I'm working very closely with Kristen Lowe to conduct exit interviews for all of those faculty and staff that have exited the institution, either through the VSIP or other means, as a way to ensure that we're getting feedback from those individuals about what their overall experience was at MCC. So that is my report.
I'm so pleased that you're doing that, Calvin. I think it's essential for us to hear from the people who are leaving so that we can make whatever changes we need to make as we go along. So thank you for doing that, and thank you very much for your report. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kimberly McKinsey Mabry, could we hear from you now, please?
Absolutely. Good evening, and thank you, Chair Lovenheim and members of the board. The full packet, the full update from Student Services is in your packet, but I'll highlight just a few things tonight. We continue to see great growth in our online audiences. Since the beginning of just this fall term, our Twitter numbers have increased by 117 followers, Facebook by 44, Instagram by 87, and LinkedIn by 167 followers. So this brings our MCC total of social media audiences across all channels to 93,626 individuals. So that's pretty important for us, especially as our enrollment management efforts and events continue remotely for this spring. So this fall, just to bring your attention to a few activities and events that we will host, we will have 2 fall open houses. Again, everything will be virtual, one in October, one in November. We continue to offer weekly high school admissions information sessions, a high school counselor workshop, adult information sessions, and general information sessions. So, you know, the growth in our online audience is well needed as we continue to work remotely to build our enrollment for the spring semester in the future. I would also like to thank everyone who was able to take some time to join us this year for the 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony. We logged almost 70 attendees, including 4 local media organizations. Special thank you to Professor of History, Mark Sample, who delivered our keynote. His title was Unity Through Crisis, A History of Hope. And I'd also like to thank our MC, student Bryce Gernon, who's a student in the School of Applied Science and Technology, who was also serving as our interim president of the Student Government Association earlier this fall. And finally, since mid-August, so just a few weeks now, the Dream Keepers mini grants that assist students with unexpected financial emergencies, including housing, food, utilities, childcare, and such. We processed 127 requests for support in just the first few weeks of the semester. 100 of those requests were students specifically from the Brighton campus, 21 were students from the downtown campus, 1 from the Public Safety Training Center, and 5 from the Applied Technology Center. So those are the highlights, and that concludes my report from Student Services. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? No? Thank you so much for that. And we look forward to more exciting things that the students are going to be doing this term.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Levin.
Todd Oldham, please.
Good afternoon. In addition to the report that we've submitted, I just to highlight a few things. One of the highlights, which isn't on the report because it actually just happened on Friday, I would like to highlight the recent announcement by County Executive Bello regarding a new tranche of funding that we've been able to establish through a partnership called Empower Healthcare. That was announced Friday for about $550,000. And that will be focused in this first tranche on about 350 individuals that will be trained, and more CNAs, particularly from Monroe County Hospital, as essential workers, but also home health aides, as well as our first pilot of a non-credit LPN program, which is going to be targeted toward the 430 CNAs that we've already trained through this partnership. There also, hopefully we'll be able to apprise you in early November, so not too far away, about a larger announcement around the Empower program that we'll be doing with the county that will be broader and include a lot of the other sectors, particularly IT and skilled trades and manufacturing. Related to that, as we anticipate that COVID recovery and the contracts that we're working on to be a strong partner and providing a variety of training, we have entered into a partnership with one of our data providers, MCC. We are right now getting ready to launch a tool called Skills Match, where we essentially have skill tagged all the courses and to the learning outcomes in the college, and we'll be using that in order to launch a new matchup tool. So that as we're intaking displaced workers, we can assess essentially their skills, and then we can use that to match them to programs that can help them upskill, if you will, based on where the demand is for more skill-based and shorter-term opportunities. So that's something we're pretty excited about. We're the only institution in the country right now that it's using this tool. Single institution, there are some systems that are beginning to experiment with it. So that looks like it'll be something that we can pilot it this year and determine whether or not it has enough merit that we'd want to continue to use it. And then lastly, we did, as we're again looking at how the training and education environment is trained in the region or changed in the region due to COVID, we did execute our own COVID survey to about 8,300 contacts through our business and industry database. We'll have the results of that probably to share at the next highlight at the next board meeting. So I'll be happy to do that at that time. I think I'll just end my comments there. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Todd. We appreciate it. And your area has done many, many exciting things and continues in that way. So it's great to hear about that. We appreciate it. Hezzy Simmons. Hezzy, are you there?
Hezzy, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. I can't see him though. Here you are.
I was saying good afternoon again.
We're glad you're here.
Yeah, we if there's a silver lining in COVID-19, it's the fact that it makes so many of the things that we do that we have to automate so many of the things that we do. So I think what we will learn is that we have much more capacity than we would ordinarily think. So I'm going to just mention a couple of things that we have done in the name of being more productive with our students and our staff. So we updated, we advanced an app that delivers and delivers the usage of this app for our student, faculty, and staff. It has added access to Blackboard courses information, and the Blackboard class information is the highest use of the mobile app, followed by MCC email and personal resources. So again, it's a way to improve our use and improve our processes through automation. This app, the score, there's a 0 to 5 point score. The scores have been 3.9 on the Google Play Store and an astounding 4.4 on the Apple App Store. So lots of use. The other item, again, it's technology at its best, is we created the custom designed COVID self-assessment screening tool so that many of us, by the time we get to the front door of Building 1 here in Brighton, we've already done the assessment, and we walk up to the guard station and we just scan our badge. They look at the report, and you can move on to your office or to your classroom. Some of the other things from an operational perspective, as a result of this, is that the schedules of our cleaners and custodians were modified to address the increased needs of disinfection across the campus during the days and nights. This necessitated moving staff from the downtown and from the night shift to day shifts in order to be properly staffed. With the cooperation of the complete campus, nighttime cleaning has been reduced in inactive areas and increased during the daytime when there is more activity. Touch points and restrooms are being cleaned far more often, so multiple times during the day. The other thing which you all are pretty much aware of, but is our budget scenarios and position management that takes quite a bit of our time, and we are trying to figure out ways to automate some of this, in addition to automating some of our other processes. One of the charges we've gotten from President Douglas is that there are some areas in the college where automation would be far more productive, and so we've charged the IT organization with beginning to look at some of those, particularly in the human resource area. The only other item I would mention is the facilities master plan. As you know, we hired a company called Smith Group to help us to develop the facilities master plan. We have our last meeting with them tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have a report prepared for the board at our next board meeting. That's it, unless you have questions.
Questions? Thank you so much, Hezi. We appreciate your report and also all of the things that you are doing to help the college. Thank you. Andrea Wade, please.
Good evening, trustees. Thank you for the chance to share some of these highlights from academic services. I'm going to quickly mention just a few things for you to focus on. One being our little Education and Human Services Department has 3 entries on this update of programs they're putting together specifically to get people to workforce very quickly. And so they're targeted again for that adult learner and to have either fully online or hybrid modalities so that they can get into those programs. I also put some statistics from our virtual campus, and I hope you take a look at them because again, that unit has just been going nonstop, and those figures are from the middle of September. So you can see how much work and support they're providing both to our faculty and staff and to our students. And then finally, I wanted to show you some brochure that we came up with. Traditionally, at the end of the academic year, there's a convocation to celebrate the achievements of our top academic students who are graduating. And it's something that students and faculty alike really think is special. Typically, they wear academic garb, and the students come up and there's a biography that's read about them, often with either thanks that they express to the faculty who have helped them achieve, or the faculty also submit comments about what makes that particular student really excellent and a great representative of Monroe Community College. And this past May, we were just unable to do this really special face-to-face experience. So the deans got together and came up with an alternative, which you can see in front of you, which is a special booklet that was sent to each of the recipients. And inside the booklet are the little biographies of each of these very, very high achieving students. And I don't know if you can page through a few of the pages. And you can see, again, those should be people you know. So we have a foreword instead of the kind of short speeches that typically happen at the event. They got the congratulations. And then if you look through, you can see, again, quotes from our faculty and biographies of the students. And we wanted to share this with you. I believe each of you, if you haven't already, will be getting a hard copy so that you can look through it at your leisure. And again, each of the students also received this booklet that they can share with their families. Some of them, the very, very top students, received a medal that they would have gotten in the ceremony, and the others received certificates that, again, they would have been presented at the ceremony. I want to especially thank the faculty who helped provide substantiation or descriptions of these great, great students, and also the deans who worked very hard to put it together. And I think they did a great job. Any questions for me?
No, just a comment. I received it in the mail, and I think it's wonderful the job that you all did. And actually, in my case, I took my time reading each one of the bios of the students and then the comments from the professors, because that's one event that I love every year. You know, I never miss it. So it was wonderful that at least we could see that.
So one of the things we may have going forward is maybe having some, even if we can go back to having the ceremony, potentially to have some sort of a booklet, so they do have a keepsake to take.
That would be wonderful.
To family.
Yeah.
I second Trustee Tillinghast's comments. I read through the whole piece as well, and you did a wonderful job with it. It was very inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you. That concludes academic services report.
And Gretchen Wood, please.
Thank you, Chair Lovenheim. MCC Foundation Chair Sergio Esteban will present right after this, so I'll allow him to give the highlights from the foundation, but I have a few other things to share with you. Clayton Jones and his team in the Government and Community Relations Department have been very busy, and one item in particular that I think is noteworthy is the communications around the reopening plan for the college, the updating of protocols and sanctions and testing news. They've provided clear, efficient communications that have been so important during this time, and I think that's important to recognize. In institutional compliance and internal audit, in addition to being busy with audit, Dolores Pastor-Ziobro has taken over the responsibilities for the Freedom of Information Law. So she will now be the FOIL officer for the institution. And that will be updated in all the appropriate places, and she will ensure that we are always in compliance. And then in institutional research, you got to see an example of the work of William Dixon and his team in President Douglas's update on the strategic plan. I think that the work that institutional research does is really a tremendous asset throughout the college. Another example of the work that they're doing that I think is particularly noteworthy at this time, you'll recall in the spring when we had to quickly go remote, that we had hundreds of students that did not have a device, a laptop, or access to Wi-Fi in order to be able to make that transition. And we obviously worked quickly to do our best to make sure that every student had what they needed to do the remote work, but he's now taking a look at those students and the demographics and the profile of those students and outcomes, and helping a current committee that President Douglas has put together on considering how can we best help laptop access be available to students going forward. So I think that's an example of how data is being used to really inform decisions going forward. So I appreciate the opportunity to give an update, and I thank you, Chair Lovenheim.
Well, you are very welcome. I love seeing you here, and we appreciate all of this new work that is coming together. So thank you too.
Thank you.
The board appreciates the cabinet members giving their reports, and it's wonderful to have the actual reports that we can look over in a more extended way, but also to hear from you at the board meeting. So thank you very much. I now ask MCC Foundation Chair Sergio Esteban to come forward for a report about the foundation.
Well, thank you, Chair Lovenheim and members of the board. And good afternoon. It's a pleasure for me to report to you on the activities of the foundation and also the accomplishment that we have achieved since where we last met. Next slide, please. Next one, please. I'm also happy to share with you that the grand total of transfers sent to the college for the 2019-2020 academic year was over $2.3 million. Another number that you'll be interested in knowing is that we most recently completed the academic year just over $1,331,441 were awarded in scholarships. And also, I'm glad to report the endowment right now has grown to over $15.3 million. Next slide, please. Another activity that took place since the last time I presented a report to you, it was the 36th Annual Scholarship Open. If you remember, this golf tournament was supposed to take place in June, and for all the reasons that we all know very well, it had to be looked at and see if it was possible of doing it. And we agreed that it needed to be done. It could be done safely and also in a productive way. So it took place in September 14th, at the Country Club of Rochester. And my thank you and my kudos to the event chairs, the foundation directors, Mike Krupnicki and Ron Mead, under their leadership and the wonderful team of support by the foundation staff. We hosted 74 golfers at this rescheduled event. And we are very grateful for their support, and also to that of Trustee Bartolata, who also participated. The tournament raised $75,000 net in support of the student success of MCC. So extremely successful, and we are very proud of the result. Next slide, please. Also, finally, I'd like to, I'm pleased to share with you that the director, Lori Van Duzen, has accepted the role of chair-elect. And as such, she will be serving as leader of the MCC Foundation starting in September of 2021. She has been a tremendous supporter of MCC for years, and I'm also very pleased that she will step into this role in the next year. Next slide, please. And like always, please note how much the directors of the foundation appreciate your leadership and all you do for MCC students, and to tell you and remind you that we are here to help any way we can. And for us, it's a great opportunity to do that under your great leadership. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Sergio, for your report and all of the wonderful things you are doing for MCC. It's great to see these people that we've known for several years. And I'm thrilled about Lori, but I'm glad we have you for a few more months. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
we go. At this time, we will begin the shared governance portion of the meeting. Linda Hall will read the statement listed under the shared governance.
Each of the shared governance leaders will have an opportunity to provide an update of no more than 5 minutes to the Board of Trustees. Speakers will not be able to share their allotted time with others. First speaker is Student Government, Brighton.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Isabella, and I am the newly elected president of the Student Government Association at MCC. I'm very excited for my new role and to be working with a great team of leaders. Last week, Kelvin Cook, the elections coordinators of SGA, organized elections for both campuses. We have filled various spots in the association on the e-board along with senator positions. The members of both governments have been working together to represent both campuses. We have discussed possibly joining as one for the time being, yet no concrete decision has been made. The Student Government Association has been hard at work lately, organizing some amazing events, even with the difficulties COVID has presented the college with. On September 11th, they organized a moving virtual 9/11 ceremony. We would like to thank all who attended the meaningful program. The student government also hosted the annual Constitution Day, highlighting the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, the right for women to vote. All students had the option to join the Zoom event and learn about the history of women's suffrage. It was very informative and celebrated an important piece of history. We are currently focused on informing the student body of the upcoming deadline to register to vote, which is this Friday, October 9th, and encouraging them to vote on Tuesday, November 3rd. In addition, we are working on a fall festival event. We are working with SEGA, the MCC Wellness Committee, and First Year Experience to host a pumpkin patch and a movie night. Upcoming events are currently in the works, and we are very excited for the new ideas that will be brought to the table with the newly elected members of SGA and SEGA. I look forward to working with a great team of people and cannot wait to dive into my new role as president. Thank you.
Congratulations on your new role. We look forward to hearing about all of the things you and your fellow students are doing. So thank you.
Okay, Student Government, Downtown Campus.
Good evening. I am also happy to say that I'm no longer the interim president, but the president of SEGA. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. As Isabel was saying, we are working currently together, Brighton and downtown. I am currently working on being the voice for the downtown students, making sure that they're being heard and what their needs are at this time. While working with Brighton. And like she was saying, we're doing the pumpkin patch and the drive-in, so that's a great honor. Thank you.
Congratulations, Denise. We're glad to hear that you are now the permanent person working with the downtown students. And we look forward to hearing from you in the coming months.
Thank you.
Faculty Senate.
Good evening, everyone. The Senate Executive Committee was really busy over the summer working on various initiatives. Senate officers were asked to join the Faculty Resource Committee. This committee reviewed the proposals for the position eliminations, and we gave some feedback, which resulted in the voluntary elimination position program. We expect to continue our review process as administration shares further proposals. The Special Committee on Administrative Affairs, SCA, reviewed the reorganization of the college divisions and the reporting structures, and we continue to be involved in appropriate searches for positions that have been vacated. We will also be reviewing the current constituency list and revising how departments will be represented within Senate because we had so many people leave. We are moving along with the search for the new president of MCC. And we held our first Senate meeting of the year in September via Zoom. The Faculty Council of Community Colleges, the president, Christy Fogel, as you heard, asked each of the campuses, the community college campuses, to either endorse or not endorse the vote of no confidence for the SUNY Board of Trustees. And our Senate voted to endorse that resolution. During this unprecedented time, I I want to acknowledge the hard work and training that faculty and professional staff have engaged in. I've never seen faculty and professional staff work harder to help our students. And so when we explore new opportunities and course platforms, we hope that administration will continue to consult with faculty and professional staff because we have direct experience with students. The Faculty Senate has begun to co-sponsor quite a few events, and I have presented at some of them on campus, including election-centered panels that highlight the need to uplift and bring to the forefront issues of social justice, and really uplift and discuss issues that are directly affecting communities of color. We have 2 deliberative dialogues coming up on safety and justice and how communities can reduce violence, and then also the future of work, how we should prepare for the new economy. So you can find those, I think they're available in the campus events. We held a Senate orientation for new and returning senators, and we continue to ask leadership to help us message out the importance of shared governance as a value commitment to service at MCC. We'll also be meeting with Dr. Douglas and her cabinet to discuss the role of SCA. And I actually have a question about the open forums that allow the college community to interact with the board. We decided to hold these a couple of times a semester in lieu of the time at the end of the board meetings. And I was just wondering when you think we will begin those again. And I will take any questions that anyone has. Thanks.
I can answer that question. And we are, we'll put this in the trib very soon. We are going to have the first, what we call it, the college forum. We changed the, if you remember, we changed the name, and we're going to do it on Wednesday, the 28th of October at 3:30. But we'll give more details on that. But that's in the answer, just a brief answer to your question.
Thank you, Dr. Loman.
You're very welcome. Thank you. We appreciate all the news that you've given us. So thanks.
Okay, administration.
Thank you. Yes, as Dr. Paris-Kane mentioned, administration collaborated with the Special Committee on Academic Administration through the reorganization process. That was an expedited process. We're appreciative of the speed with which both sides of that moved that along. And we will continue the conversation about the role of SCA in shared governance. I look forward to that conversation between cabinet and members of Faculty Senate. And finally, with all the reorganizations, I'm in conversation with Dr. Paris-Kane about what should be the communication, the appropriate communication channel between Faculty Senate and executive administration. So we will work out the fine tuning of that and keep everyone informed. And that concludes the administration's shared governance report.
Thank you very much for those details.
Okay, and then the Support Staff Planning Council provided a written update to the board.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will begin the union update portion of the meeting.
Each of the union leaders will have an opportunity to provide an update of no more than 5 minutes to the Board of Trustees. Speakers will not be able to share their allotted time with others. Faculty Association will not be providing a report. CSEA.
Oh, 1 second. Okay. Thank you and good evening. I'm here today to provide an update on the morale of the CSEA membership following the layoffs and the recently approved reorganization. The consensus among the membership is that we are cautiously optimistic with a high level of anxiety. We want to believe that the college is on the right path to correct the current problems here at the college, but there is a strong feeling of uncertainty due to the miscommunication and a perceived lack of planning surrounding the layoffs and the reorganization. Many department managers had no input on the targeting of positions for layoffs within their departments. We found this to be extremely concerning, and it doesn't seem to be in the best interest of our students for upper-level administrators to cut critical positions within certain departments without any input from the departmental managers. These are the types of decisions that lead the CSEA membership to have a lack of faith in administrators here at the college. We feel the CSEA membership is held accountable on a regular basis. It doesn't matter whether it's for disciplinary reasons or poor performance, we are held accountable for our actions. The financial crisis and the enrollment problems didn't present themselves suddenly. Enrollment decline has been plaguing the college for many years, which has directly influenced the financial crisis. We would like to know when others at MCC are going to be held accountable for their actions. We love MCC and we believe we have more to offer than just simply doing our jobs and putting students first. We want to be part of the equation that helps move the college forward. We can only help if we are included in the conversation and the process. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Tom. We appreciate it. I would now like to call your attention to the biographies of our newest employees that can be found in attachment 9 and the staff recognition notes found in attachment 10. Both document the impressive credentials and accomplishments of MCC employees. I know you join me in recognizing them for their contributions to the college. Trustees, this concludes the Board of Trustees meeting for October. Thank you all for being here, you as trustees and also the community. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.